قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد ولقد أرسلنا رسلا من قبلك وجعلنا لهم أزواجا وذرية صدق الله العظيم. So dear brothers and dear sisters, does anybody remember what I spoke about last year? What did I speak about?
You talked about the kids, raising the kids in Islamic environment. And I still remember the last time you said we need in Australia ulama, PhD scientists, but Hafiz are in alim.
Okay, mashallah, that's amazing. Alhamdulillah. Good stuff, you saved the day, alhamdulillah. Okay, so what I'm going to speak about today then is I wrote a book on marriage a few years ago called Handbook of a Healthy Muslim Marriage. When I had people read it before it went to press, somebody said that we need to discuss premarital counseling. I said that in marital counseling there's a huge need for that, and you're wanting premarital counseling. What I'm going to speak about right now is inshallah going to be relevant not just to those who are not married, but those who are married, and also those who are veterans in marriage, right? So inshallah it's for everybody. What that is how to actually prepare for marriage. But if you're already married, then how to enhance your marriage. And if you're a veteran, then how do you prepare others for marriage, like your children or your nephews or your brothers or sisters or somebody. So inshallah it's relevant for everybody. Preparation for marriage. Now this stuff is not in the book, so this is extra content, right? It's exclusive, it's not in the book, right? What it means by preparation for marriage for a lot of people is once you found the person to marry, the potential spouse, then the whole preparation means those 2-3 days plus the honeymoon. What you're going to wear, how many people you're going to invite, what you're going to feed them, and all of that. The whole preparation is for those few days. How many people prepare for what's going to actually happen afterwards when you start living together? Aside from a nice bed and a nice room and nice furniture, how many people actually prepare for how am I going to deal with this person and how am I going to be? Am I marriage material? How am I going to deal with the difficulties and challenges that are going to come about in marriage? Or do you think there will be no challenges in marriage? So anybody who lives in a world where they think it's just going to be honeymoon for the next 50 years until you live happily ever after in the hereafter, right? Then they're living in another world. The Prophet ﷺ on one occasion retired from his, or you can say separated from his wives and went into a loft and stayed there for 29 days due to some issue they had. That's the super couple, or multiple couples. The Prophet ﷺ went to visit his son-in-law once, Ali radiallahu anhu, who's married to his daughter Fatima radiallahu anhu. Went to the door, where is he? Oh, we had a bit of an issue, he's in the masjid. So there will be issues. So what do you do then? You have to learn how to deal with issues. That's the secret of this. You just have to learn to deal with issues. Now this isn't just about marriage, it's about any relationship, whether that be with your neighbor or your colleague at work or wherever you are. How do you really prepare for marriage? And if you're already married, then these things that I'm going to speak about, they're affecting your marriage. So how do you sort them out and how do you enhance your marriage? So I'll leave it to you guys. What do you think is an issue in marriage that creates problems in marriage, a behavioral issue, a behavioral trait? What do you think is a trait that causes issues in marriage? If the brothers don't answer, I'll have to ask the sisters, so hurry up. Misunderstanding is one of them. What else? Not giving space to one another. All right, what else? What do you think is an issue in marriage? You're too early for that. Huh? Stubbornness. MashaAllah. Yeah, miscommunication. Yeah. How about anger? You guys heard about anger, or you guys don't get angry here? Anger is a big one. Anger is a massive one. So let's start with that. Anger, right? Do you have an anger problem? If you do, okay, how many people here have an anger problem? I'll put my hand up as well. Okay, mashallah, very honest people, right? The way to find out whether you've got an anger problem or not is just compare yourselves to your brothers and sisters. Are you the one that usually gets riled up faster than anybody else? If you have an anger problem, you're going to have an issue in marriage. Like I guarantee you. You're going to have a problem with any relationship because in relationships, it does get a bit abrasive every now and then. You know, the tectonic plates of the world, they usually fine, but sometimes they rub again and there's an earthquake. That's just the nature of the world. With anybody, you can't always be settled. There's always going to be some issues sometimes. Just how do you deal with it? If you haven't prepared for that, there's going to be issues. There are issues. If you're married already, anger is an issue. We know because we get the stories and the consultation for this. How do you sort out anger? So the way you sort out anger, the way I benefited is because I used to speak about anger as an imam. I had to speak about anger, and that benefited me a lot by reading the likes of Imam Ghazali and Maulana Ashabali Thanwi and others. And there's many hadith about that fact, there's Quranic verses about that fact, so that always gave me some consciousness about it. So I got it more controlled than I used to be before. Remember, as human beings, we all are born with certain qualities and capabilities. Everybody is. That's what you run your life with. Every single individual. Those who think they're losers, they've just not figured out what their strengths are. Otherwise, everybody has strengths. Allah doesn't create people waste men, right? There's always some strength Allah gives you. You just have to discover. Most people do discover it. But we're also created with a set of challenges, everybody. Just observe a set of brothers and sisters. They're all from the same parents, same food, same tarbiyah, nurturing, everything. But one will be slightly sharper than the other. One will be slightly more generous than the other. One will be slightly more compassionate than the other. One will be a bit stingier than the other. One will be a bit more angrier than the other. One might be a bit more jealous than the other. How many of you here would since we got some children here, how many of you would share their last sweet? Nice pack of sweets, got last one left. Would you share it? You wouldn't. You're not sure. You would? Sometimes. Okay, that's a good answer. What about you? You would share it. Okay, nice person to be with them. What about, would you share your last sweet? He's not sure. Behind, right? We got children here, we have to make them feel accommodated, otherwise, yeah. So, you see, every child is different. That's fine. If you're stingy by nature, that's no problem. But if we act stingily in a place where we're not like zakat, haram, they're collecting for Palestine, you got money, everybody else is, mashallah, giving, eyes are streaming, and you don't, you're like, can I give 15 minutes? You know? You go to the restaurant to eat with your friends, and you've just had your meal, mashallah, and then the bill is going to come, and mashallah, you go to the toilet to wash your hands. Why are you guys laughing? Why not? Aren't you going to wash your hands? It's a trick. Subhanallah. Right? We're not teaching you bad ideas, okay? Why does he go to the toilet? So he doesn't have to pay the bill, somebody else will pay it. Right? That's stinginess. Everybody's giving your children Eid. You know what Eid is? Right? You don't know what Eid is. Right? Eid gifts. You don't give to anybody, you say, brother, this is bid'ah. The Prophet ﷺ didn't do this. Haram, ya akhi, this is bid'ah. Right? But you're receiving it. That's stinginess. Naturally, Allah creates us with different things, and we should be upfront about it to ourselves. I've got this issue. I've got this issue. I want to sort it out. The great thing is we can sort it out. So, if we take anger and I discover I've got anger, let me sort it out. The worst comes to us, you know what to do? If you've got an anger problem, take an anger management course. You can do them online. You don't have to tell anybody, because you owe it to your future, to your children, to your progeny, to your families, to sort this out for your relationships. Otherwise, it is creating a fire in your relationship. right? Sort it out. Okay, that's number one. I'm just giving us ways to think. We have a short amount of time, just giving us ways to think about this, okay? And you figure this out afterwards. What's another issue? Another issue would be sensitivity. Some people are so sensitive, small little thing happens and they start crying, right? They stop talking. It's a very bad way of dealing with things. Some of these are more in women, some of these are more in men, okay? But otherwise, we both share a lot of these issues. I know a guy who got married to someone. No, it was a woman. She got married to a family and she was going to live with the mother-in-law. She was happy to do that. But the mother-in-law, any small issues, stop talking for 2 days. How do you live like that? One day, my kid, who was about 7 or something at the time, came home from school and I heard him saying to his mum that I'm not talking to my friend. I overheard and I said to him, I said, where did you learn to stop talking to somebody from? Because we don't do that at home. We don't stop talking to people. We just deal with the matter. Just sort it out. Carry on. Right? So he must have learned it from a friend. His friend must have said, hey, I'm not talking to you. So children pick up stuff. We pick up stuff. A lot of people, they still have some trauma from a young age or something like that. So they just stop talking. That's a lazy way of dealing with things. And then they start crying. Rather than deal with something, they start crying. Now, how do you deal with that? I'm here to try to offer solutions. So how do you deal with emotion like that? What you do is we try to channel that emotion in the correct way. So when you feel teary over anything, you feel a sense of loss, right? A lot of people say that, a lot of the psychologists will say that if you are one who cries very easily for when you get a bit upset, you haven't grown up since you're 4 years old. Because when you were 2, 3, 4 years old, your weapon was to cry. If your brother or sister took something from you, you cried and your mom came and saved you. So you still think the same thing is going to happen. Somebody's going to save you, but the guy who you're with, your husband or wife, they're not going to save you. They're just going to think you're pathetic. You understand? So how do you sort that out? MashaAllah, you're crying. You've got an asset. There's people on 27th night, they can't cry. They try all night to cry and they can't. And you're crying for free. MashaAllah, you're crying for free. On demand. Right? So what you should do is get a Quran with a translation. And whenever you feel teary and emotional, start reading the Quran and you will find a lot to cry for. But that will be good crying. That will be praiseworthy crying. You're channeling your emotions. If you can't always have a Quran with you maybe, so if you're like that, that's fine. What you do is, whenever you feel teary, just instead of crying for free for yourself and making yourself feel sorry for yourself, start crying to Allah in a dua. That would be valuable crying. Then you'll be able to focus more and do it for the right reason. So that's the second thing. So there's many issues like that. Another third one is stinginess. Now look, if the wife is stingy, I think that's cool. Because then the man doesn't, there's guys I know, they ask their wives for itemized bill every month of what they spent on. Or they give them these tight budgets and then like make sure. But if the wife is stingy, she's not going to spend your money if you're the breadwinner. That's all right. But if the husband is stingy, that's one of the worst things you can have. The Prophet ﷺ made it a sadaqah to spend on your family. It's a charity to spend as long as you don't go overboard. And it's the one place where the Prophet ﷺ allowed a wife to take from her husband without him knowing. Remember, I'm not giving a fatwa here. If you think your husband is very stingy, you need to explain your situation to a sheikh and see whether you're allowed to take the way Hind radiallahu anhu was allowed to take from Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu. A woman called me. She said, my husband is very, 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 very stingy. And I said, what do you mean? Give me an example. We have very, very old furniture. It's just about surviving. Right? He doesn't get new furniture. Now, I know sometimes people exaggerate. So I asked to speak to the husband. To be fair about this. So I spoke to the husband. The husband said, yeah, it's old, but it works. It does the job. It keeps the clothes in there. It was a long story, but she was a bit health conscious. So she wanted to buy organic milk. That's cost another dollar extra, right? It's a lot of money extra. So I spoke to him on the side. I said, how much milk do you guys use a week? He said, this much. So he did some hisab, right? That it's going to cost you in a year, in England, it would have cost you about 70, 80 pounds. So maybe $150 extra. I go, please, just do that. Because, you can't win every one of your battles. Get her some organic milk, right? It's a sadaqah to spend on your family as long as you don't do israf and you don't become extravagant. So that's stinginess. That is affecting your marriage, or it will affect your marriage. Okay, quickly, a few other things. Addictions, they're going to affect your marriage a lot. Just to keep it simple, because there are children here, wife is waiting in bed already, and the guy's on a laptop in another room. That's the worst of it. Or he comes home from work and he's just online, watching football or soccer, whatever you guys call it. Or catching up on cricket. Or he's out with his friends until 1 o'clock at night. She's fallen asleep on the dinner. She's waiting for him. Or the other way around. She's constantly on WhatsApp even when she's cooking, so she spoils the food. She's just conversing with 5 different people. Or she's giving a running commentary of her marriage to her family, a new soap opera, and letting her mum remote control her marriage. Have you seen those? They remote control the marriage. Some mums tell them exactly what to do. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. So these are all issues that create. There's one woman, this is in my book, so I'm just sharing with you. There's one woman, she used to constantly tell her mum everything, and her mum used to always tell her, do this, do that. One day her mum said, from now on, I don't want you telling me anything. The daughter felt abandoned. That, why are you abandoning me? He said, no. Your relationship with your husband is very unique and different from my relationship with him. He's different from my husband, for example. I want you to deal with it. It felt bad for the daughter initially, but ultimately she said that was the best advice she gave, because now I managed, because a mother can't deal with it. She can't know everything. Yes, mothers are important, but sometimes mothers are very biased. Not all mothers, but mothers are very biased. Even fathers are sometimes a lot biased as well. You understand what I'm saying now? The way to prepare for marriage is to think what is going to cause a problem in a relationship, because marriage is a relationship. When the Prophet ﷺ said that you need to be successful with the deeni aspect rather than beauty and all of that only, the deen aspect is not just that they pray a lot or that they fast a lot. What the deeni aspect is the character. Character is what makes a better marriage. Now, one way to check on the health of your marriage is very, very simple. And again, it's something that occurred later. Do you know what that is? Are you upset? Do you get upset if your spouse gets upset? So if I'm talking to the men, and the women can replicate this, do you guys get upset when your wife gets upset? So if your wife gets upset, you get upset. If that's the case, that's good. Because then you won't get her upset, because if you get her upset, it's going to make you upset, so you're not going to get her upset, so that you don't become upset, so you're not going to get her upset. You understand what I'm saying? It's a bit of circular reasoning, but now if you're a guy that it doesn't matter if she's upset, or you like it if she's upset, right? Then your marriage is on the rocks. It's a very simple way of checking that. It's a health check of your marriage. I said that just now in Pakistan in a large gathering. And this old man came to me and goes, why did you say that for? You shouldn't have said that. I'm not sure why. I didn't have time to ask him why, but maybe that health check wasn't very good. Like, you got diabetes, man, or something like that. But do you agree with that? Like, if you are upset that your wife is upset, then you're not going to get her upset. But we might get her upset sometimes. But then I'm going to try to make it correct. I'm going to try to make her happy, because I don't want her to be upset, because it makes me upset. And I think that's beautiful, because I'm looking at that. So somebody asked me some time ago that does, after several years of marriage, does your love increase? Personally, I don't think it increases. I just think it becomes more nuanced and deeper. Love becomes more nuanced and deeper, because you get to learn about the other person much more. So then you adjust yourself so that you don't bother the other person and they don't bother you. You get to understand the likes and dislikes. Why is all of this important? To cut a long story short, because you have to do tarawih, right? The simple thing is that if you don't sort this out, and we don't sort these behavioral issues out, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, your children's life may be punctuated by a divorce. Their life will be turned upside down, if not sooner than that. And the thing is that you can only survive for so long. Ultimately, it's messed up. And look, the guys will be able to see this, the women can't see this, but just imagine this. Let's just say that when you get married, you're both on the same level, right? You're standing on the same ground, and you're dealing with, you can see each other and you can deal with. Now, if I have a little problem, if one partner has a little problem, it's like they sink an inch deep, right? Now, if they sort it out, they come back up, they're both on the same level again. If they don't sort it out and it's something that keeps bothering you, then there's going to be another issue very soon. That's going to take you another centimeter down. That means you're 2 centimeters down. It's easier to climb out 1 centimeter than 2 centimeters. Now you have a third problem, and a fourth problem, and a fifth problem, and you're waist down. You can only see each other half off because you're not sorting it out. You're brushing it under the table, or you're just ignoring it, or you just stop talking to one another, or whatever the case is. After I'm dealing, in the last 2 years, I've dealt with about 3 or 4 cases of over 20-year-old marriages with older children. Now they finally it's done. Because they're so deep, both of them are in trenches that they can't see one another. Now sorting that out is much more difficult. So the lesson from here very simply is get help sooner than later. A lot of our tradition is it'll be all right. One woman who got finally divorced at the age of 40 says that, I asked the story, she said, well, I got married to a guy I didn't want to get married to. He was a loser, right? Didn't work, so on and so forth. Then what happened is, I told my mom. My mom said, have a child. He'll sort himself out. So we had a child. Again, he doesn't sort himself out. Went to my mom again. My mom said, have another child. Then he'll get responsible and no. A third child, no. Finally, she got out of that marriage, right? Eventually, you can only last so long in anything, right? The olden days, it used to be where you can live in hell forever. It's okay. But now, especially in the modern world and the Western world, everybody has their rights and they can work, and it's just a different ball game right now. So get help sooner than later and sort it out. It's worth it because eventually you're going to lay the foundation for your children and for your grandchildren and for your great-grandchildren. It's going to affect all of them. You don't think so, but it will. You know, when I've traveled with in Hajj, there's somebody that sticks out for having some special quality. And he's not a scholar or anything. It's just, I realized when I talked to him that he's had some forefather, a grandfather or somebody who was a special, akhlaqi person. That affects everything. And remember, once if we have any grandparent here, right? If they have 6 grandchildren, there's no stopping them from expanding now. We're going to be gone. Our grandchildren are going to expand. They're going to become multitudes. They're our grandchildren, not my brothers, not my sisters, they're mine. I need to set a way that is a balanced relationship so my children can be brought up in a balanced environment. Not a bickering environment, not an estranged environment, but a balanced environment. So get it sorted out sooner than later and keep reading verse 70, I think, of Surah Al-Furqan. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Our Lord, grant us from our spouses and our progeny, meaning that Allah is making us make dua not just for our children, but all of our descendants until the day of judgment. Make them all the gladness of our eyes and make us the imams of the righteous ones. So every one of us is an imam for his family, the mothers and the fathers. Make us imams of the righteous. It's a dua to say, my children and my family should be righteous and I'm the imam. SubhanAllah. Right? And make them a source of joy for my eyes in both this world and the hereafter. They say it's a magical dua. As long as you keep making an effort and you read this dua, If there's something about your spouse that bothers you, and there probably could be, because everybody has weaknesses, everybody has defects, right? It's the ulama say that either Allah will remove that defect from them, or He'll minimize it, diminish it in your sight, it won't bother you anymore. That's amazing. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this month of mercy and blessing and love and everything, that He grant us love, understanding, compromise, compassion, and this this bond that keeps us going, inshallah, in a healthy relationship, so that our children can have a healthy household and we can have a healthy future and be productive members of the community. Allah bless you all. That's all we have time for today. Jazakallah khairan. We'll see you again maybe next year, right? Inshallah, or sooner. And keep us in your du'as, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, I mean, this was a very brief. I've got many more lectures on marriage, and I think you should, if you've got issues or you want to enhance it, they're on Zamzam Academy channel, zamzamacademy.com, or Zamzam Academy on YouTube. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.